Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 3751 and today's date is October 13th, 2025, and the title of the episode is China Folds and Blows Up Their Trade War. Trump has China's central bank where he wants them. Now, I don't know if you know this. You're not investing. You're being used. Wall Street, Washington, the Fed, they don't care about your future. They care about control. And as they push their agenda forward, they'll take everything they can from you. Your retirement, your portfolio, your freedom, all of it. The only way to protect yourself is to stop playing their rigged game and untether your wealth from the system they control before it's too late. The simplest way, move your money into a universal asset they can't print, freeze, or devalue. That asset is gold. With Noble Gold Investments, you can roll over your retirement into real physical gold and silver. Wealth that's beyond their reach and in your hands. Go to x22gold.com right now to get your free wealth protection kit. That's x22gold.com. Noble Gold, helping you break free and take back control. Or just click the link in the description. And remember, past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult your financial advisor before making investment decisions. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, the private one central bank, the World Economic Forum, you can see that they made their move and they tried to box Trump in. China all of a sudden said, hey, you know what we're going to do? We're going to do something against the rare earth minerals, and we're going to shut everything down, and we're boxing you in. And this is why I do believe we heard from Jamie Dimon saying the market was going to come down, and it did come down when that news came out. But you have to remember something very, very important. Trump, the patriots, the people of this country, we have all the leverage. No matter what they try to do, no matter what they try to push, it's not going to work. And it looks like China has now folded. The central bank has folded because their plan didn't work. If you notice, every step of the way, they're trying to box Trump in. They're trying to stop Trump from moving forward with the parallel economic system. They're trying to create an event so something would happen in the country. They're waiting for it. They were waiting for inflation. They're waiting for the market to fall. They're waiting for all of these things, and it's not happening. And you can see that China's trade war, it just blew up. Peter Saidong put this out and said, China threatened a worldwide embargo of rare earth minerals. Trump responded with 130% tariffs starting November 1st. Both sides wanted a deal. China just blinked and showed it needs one. Absolutely. And think about this. China now is walking back their export control announcement. They're panicking right now. And the question is why? Well, according to filings from the Defense Logistic Agency, the U.S. Department of Defense has moved to secure up to $1 billion in critical minerals from cobalt and antimony and scandium and tantalum as part of a global race to reduce dependence on China. A former defense official summed it up. They're definitely looking for more, and they're doing it in a deliberate and expansive way. The Pentagon's urgency is clear. China's ability to turn off the supply of these critical minerals would have direct, palpable, and adverse effect on U.S. ability to field the kind of high-tech capabilities that we're going to need for any kind of strategic competition or conflict. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act adds fuel, $7.5 billion earmarked for critical minerals, including $2 billion to fortify the national stockpile and another $5 billion to expand U.S. supply chains. And if you really look at it, offices that are handling mineral security are now flush with cash, which means Trump and the Patriots, they're now countering China with everything they're trying to do. First, Trump placed tariffs on China. Then, with the One Big Beautiful Bill, we have the ability to ramp up and basically bring in as much rare earth materials that we can possibly find. Plus, we know that Trump is creating the roads out in Alaska for the rare earth mining out there. So when you start to put all this together, you can see that China definitely does not have the upper hand. They might have thought they did, but you have to remember, you're not dealing with past presidents. You're dealing with President Trump. And Trump, he's known from the very, very beginning that he needed to put certain things into place because he understands that the deep state players, China, they're going to fight back with everything that they have. And you have to remember, everything was supposed to be shifting to China. And now Trump now is putting the brakes on this and now pushing back on all of it and bringing it all back here to the United States and setting it up so the United States is independent of any other country, because that's what's most important. Because if we're dependent on oil, if we're dependent on rare earth mineral, if we're dependent on uranium, if we're dependent on any other country, especially with manufacturing, well, that is a national security issue and it could affect the economy, as we're seeing right now with what China was trying to pull. Think about the other nations when Trump implemented the tariffs. They tried to push back. They were going to hurt the economy of this country. And now that we're becoming independent, remember the globalist system, they didn't want us independent. This is why they were moving everything out of this country. As we become more and more independent, it's becoming harder and harder for the deep state players, the central bankers, to push their entire agenda to try to bring down the economic system. And I do believe this is what they're trying to do right now. Event after event after event, they're trying to create an instance where everything starts to fall apart. Trump responded to what China was trying to do, and Trump said, "Don't worry about China. It will all be fine." Highly respected President Xi just had a bad moment. He doesn't want depression for his country, and neither do I. The USA wants to help China, not hurt it. President DJT. And we could see this is definitely coming from the central bankers. We could see they were trying to make their move, and maybe Xi was on board. Maybe he was convinced of this. But once again, you could see that everything that they're trying to do is going to fail. And I do believe the last thing that the deep state, the central bankers are going to try to do is a major, major event. They're trying all these ahead of time, just like when they tried to use the judiciary against Trump for deportation, when they tried to indict him and everything else. They try all these things, and then the last thing they do is maybe start World War III or have a cyber attack on the financial institutions to try to blame it all on Trump. But every step of the way, it's not going to work because the parallel economic system is going to counter everything that they're trying to do. And Trump, all he wants is the interest rates to come down. And you can see with the shutdown, they're using the shutdown to make the case that, hey, we don't have the data to do this. But again, Trump is releasing the inflation report, and they will have the information to actually make a decision. Of course, they're going to push back and say it's not enough, but he's going to present this and say there's no inflation. And since there's no inflation, it hasn't gone up, it's pretty steady. It's time to lower the rates once again. And I do believe this is what is being done right now. And you can see the Fed right now, it looks like they don't want to drop the rates. Barron's put this out and said Raphael Bostic has spent most of 2025 as one of the Federal Reserve's most steadfast inflation hawks. The Atlanta Fed president projected just one interest rate cut for the year when most of his colleagues on the Fed's policymaking committee anticipated three. Even after the central bank trimmed rates by 0.25 percentage point in September, Bostic said he would support delaying further rate cuts until 2026. Basically telling you that we don't want to lower the rates right now. We want to hold everything steady, and I do believe they're going to be trying to make the excuse right now of why they don't want to lower the rates anytime in this latter part of the year. They want to wait until 2026 because, again, I do believe they're hoping that they can bring this system down. And if you notice, they tried with China, but it's completely and utterly failing. But when you look at what the one big beautiful bill is doing, you can see it's definitely making it easier for the American people. And I think this is just the beginning stages. Remember, Trump just couldn't come in and say, listen, nobody pay taxes. We're done with it. Because he didn't have a parallel economic system to support what the government needed at the time. Remember, he has to reduce the government employees. He has to reduce the spending. He has to cut government. Now, I don't know if you know this, but gold has gone mainstream. You're seeing it everywhere. Prices are climbing. Every day, more and more Americans are catching on to the power of gold. But how do you actually take advantage of it? How do you invest in a way that's safe, simple, and built for the long run? That's where Noble Gold Investments come in. Noble Gold specialists are trained to help investors like you go from confused to confident, from wondering what's next to knowing exactly what to do. Whether you're looking to roll over an old 401k into a gold IRA, or you want physical coins and bars delivered right to your home, Noble Gold makes the process simple, safe, and stress-free. You'll get step-by-step guidance, transparent pricing, and U.S.-based service from teams that handle over $2.5 billion in precious metal transactions. With Noble Gold Investments, protecting and growing your wealth isn't just their job, it's their commitment. Visit x22gold.com today to claim your free wealth protection kit. That is x22gold.com. Noble Gold is helping you build a stronger future, or just click the link in the description. And remember, past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult your financial advisor before making investment decisions. Right down to almost nothing. And he needs to bring in as much as he possibly can via the tariffs, via the energy sales, via the technology sales, and the gold card sales. This way, he has enough to support the government. Once that occurs, once we have enough, then we can start to make the move to remove the income tax. But he is making it a little bit easier for the people and basically raising the deduction rate to make it a little bit easier for people to get by right now. So the standard deduction will rise to $16,100 for single taxpayers and $32,200 for married couples filing jointly in the 2026 tax year. The 2025 standard tax deduction was also raised to $15,750 for single filers and $31,500 for couples filing jointly. Marginal tax brackets were also adjusted for inflation, with the top tax rate remaining at 37% for single taxpayers making $640,600 and joint filers making over $768,000. Other tax brackets are as follows: 35% for incomes over $256,000 individuals and $512,000 for married filers, 32% for incomes over $201,000 for individuals and $403,000 for married filers, 24% for incomes over $105,000 for individuals and $211,000 for married filers, 22% for incomes over $50,000 for individuals and $100,000 for married filers, 12% for incomes over $12,000 for individuals and $24,000 for married filers, 10% for incomes of $12,000 or less for individuals, or $24,000 for married filers. Now, yes, there's change after that. So like when I say $256,000, there might be like $225 or things like that. But you get the point right there. And the one big beautiful bill changes include the estate tax exclusion, which will be set at $15 million for the estates of descendants who die in 2026, an increase from the current $13.99 million that applies this year. So every step of the way, you can see Trump and the Patriots, they're trying to make it a lot easier for people. They're trying to put the money back into people's pockets. And I think eventually, as time goes on, and as Scavino would say, it's time to abolish the IRS. I do believe we will be getting to that point. And as we move forward, what I do believe is going to happen is every step of the way, as the tariff system builds and builds and builds and is able to compete against the Federal Reserve, I do believe you're going to see things completely and utterly change. Now, do I think this is going to happen from now until the midterms? Most likely not. This is why Trump had the one big beautiful bill to ease the pain of the people as best he possibly can. Remember, he's still dealing with Congress. I do believe once the midterms happen and we take control of the House, we take control of the Senate, I do believe this is when Trump can start to make the moves in actually weeding us off the Federal Reserve and actually changing a lot of what's happening in this country. Because again, if you have the patriots that are working with you instead of against you, then you can do a lot more. I mean, look what it took just to get this passed. I mean, right now the government is shut down because, again, the Democrats are holding the entire country hostage. So this is not going to work in our favor. And to change the economy, to get rid of the Fed, to get rid of income tax, you need people in position. I do believe that's what this is all about. Yes, right now, what Trump is doing right now, he's setting everything up, putting all the pieces in place, getting everything prepared from when that time comes. Just like when he had Biden in office, destroying the economy, destroying the country, he was already planning out everything to create the parallel economic system. So when he came into office, he could really move. He was able to move very, very quickly. And everyone saw how fast he was moving because he needed to get things off the ground. He couldn't wait. You see, he actually took the central bank by surprise. They never expected him to move so quickly, to set up the parallel economic system, to place the tariffs in place, to issue the gold card, to actually remove the regulations so the oil companies could then apply for drilling permits. So this way they could start and prepare to drill. I think what's going to happen, since he kicked that off in the very beginning of 2025, the beginning of 2026 and moving throughout 2026, you're going to see everything that Trump did, and you're going to see fuel prices come down. Actually, we're already starting to see the fuel prices come down because now OPEC is producing a lot more oil, and it's driving the prices way down. And I do believe as we hit 2026 and the oil companies start to drill here in this country, we're going to see oil prices drop even faster. Remember when Trump had the oil companies frack and he was able to bring the oil prices below $2 a gallon? Well, I do believe the same thing's going to happen, but I think we're going to see something that we're never, ever going to believe. It's not just going to go past $1.99. I think this is going to go much, much lower because, again, we have a lot of liquid gold under the soil, and I do believe that Trump is going to become very, very competitive, and we're going to see sales across the globe. Now, again, you have to remember, we're still dealing with a central bank illusionary economic system. So Trump still has to play within the central bank system while he creates the parallel economic system. And actually, it's very difficult for the tariff system to coexist with the central bank system. They really don't work together. And eventually what has to happen is you need to get rid of the central bank system. So yes, are you going to see fluctuations? Are there going to be bumps in the road? Of course there is. But eventually what's going to happen is you're going to start to see everything change. And I do believe when we start to wean ourselves off of the Federal Reserve, where they're no longer controlling everything and they're no longer taking the money from the people, we're going to start to see changes because every step of the way, what you're going to see is you're going to see the people are going to be getting their buying power back. And eventually, when we remove ourselves from the central bank system and we move away from their fiat currency, this is going to be when everything changes. This is when you're really going to see how Trump's new system is just unbelievable. This is when people are going to recognize that his tariff system has just made the economy the golden economy. That's what people are going to experience. And if you notice, he's forcing the bankers, forcing the deep state players, the central bankers, for them to do exactly what he wants. And you can see there are now major banks. They have unveiled a $1.5 trillion effort to boost the U.S. economic system. So we have certain banks like JP Morgan Chase. They announced a $1.5 trillion plan to facilitate investment in industries critical to national economic security and resilience over the next 10 years. And this is not just the only bank. We're going to see other banks join in, and they're all together in this, providing this capital to rebuild America. And by doing this, you're going to see the country really start to take off. Just like we're seeing all the investments from all different corporations being funneled right into this country. And once Trump has everything set up, and once we have control over the House and over the Senate, you're going to see this system completely and utterly change. And once we wean ourselves off the Federal Reserve and we start to move into the alternative currencies, I mean, go back to the Constitution, this is when people really start to see a change. They're going to see a change when they don't have to pay income tax anymore, but they're going to see a major, major change once we're no longer using the central bank fiat currency. And we're back to the Constitution. We're back to the gold standard. We're back to sound money. This is when people are going to see that, wow, this system is absolutely amazing. And his system is going to take off once we're free of the central bank system, because that is what's keeping the system back right now. It's because of the central bank system. Once we remove the central bank system, everything changes. So when you see Trump's system right now and you see the economy, and you say, oh, look, it's not doing anything. Oh, we're in a recession, or the saying that, oh, look, things aren't that great. This is the central bank system breaking down. He's actually shifting us away from it. And once we break free of it, that's when you really see the change. And we're heading in that direction, and it's approaching very, very quickly. And if you also notice that gold is really making incredible moves right now. And I do believe it's going to continue in this trajectory because, again, as Trump continually moves us away from the central bank system, move us away from the fiat system and creates the parallel economic system, I do believe we're going to see the alternative currencies really start to make moves. And this is what's going to wake a lot of people up. People are going to start to understand there's a problem with the fiat currency, because you have to remember, I truly believe that gold and silver, they have been manipulated to make it look like the fiat currency is actually worth something. And this is why they created the paper markets to keep the gold and silver prices down. Now, if you look at silver, you look at gold, they're really starting to make moves. And I think Trump really needs this to happen, because if we're going to revalue gold, revalue silver, and basically use this to go up against the central bank system, we need gold much, much higher than 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 7,000, 10,000 an ounce. We need gold to go to $20,000, $25,000 an ounce, or even higher, which I do believe it probably will go to that area, which will then show how bad the pieces of paper that we have are worth, because that means they're worth absolutely nothing. That means they lost all their value since we came off the gold standard in the 70s. And this is going to wake up the people of this country. And once we go back to sound money and we're pegged to gold and we're using currency that you just can't print willy-nilly, this is going to change everything. And I do believe you could see that we're heading in this direction. And it's the central bankers, they're panicking. They know that the people are going to realize what's happening. And I do believe they're going to try to stop it, just like they've been trying to stop it every step of the way. But in the end, everything is going to break free, and they won't be able to stop this. Nothing will be able to stop the new economic system. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and as